created a pickle file of that particular model. So now today, the basic agenda behind the session is to deploy it using Flask. Okay, so we will see how to deploy a machine learning model. By deploy, I am saying I will create a web app, an interactive web app by which you can put the inputs and get the output over there. You don't need to put your inputs in the Python script. Yeah. So for that, we will see how to use Flask. But today, what we will do, we'll do it in our local system. We won't deploy it in the server because since it's a 1 hour session, so we can't club both the things together. So what we planned for today is we'll do it in first we'll understand how to work on Flask, how to create the HTML pages and everything. So once we are done with that, we will see how to run the app.py file, the Python script that we have prepared, how to create virtual environments, how to install libraries in virtual environments, everything. Okay, we'll cover these things today. So once we are done with that, in the next session, what we'll gonna do is we'll deploy this in the server so that the link is going to be publicly accessible. So as of now, when we are going to deploy it in the local system, when I'm right today, we'll be deploying you. As you will see, you will get a link over there. If I'm giving that link to you, you won't be able to access that web app. Why? Because it's not a public link as of now. It's a private link that is gonna be used by the system that is gonna host it, right? So for that, we'll deploy it in the server in the next session. Clear with the objective? Great. Okay, so how many of you attended the Streamlit session? Okay, so those who have attended it, I hope you guys remember. Shubham, there was a Streamlit session that we did. That was an ad hoc session whose recording is uploaded in Insight Thursdays, so you can go through that. But what we did on Streamlit was we created an app.py file over there as well, right? But we didn't use any HTML or any other designing kind of thing. If you guys remember, you remember that, I hope, right? We didn't make it interact we didn't design it by ourselves. We just created the we just gave the input and all those stuffs out there, but the designing part was not given to us because Streamlit doesn't give that privilege to you, right? Streamlit doesn't give you that privilege to customize it up. So that is something which Flask gives you, and that is why Flask is much more popular than Streamlit and everything, right? Getting my point, guys? So what we'll do, we'll just have a look at the model that we created as of now. Just to give a quick recap. Shubham, from which batch you are? You are from which batch? No, you started term one, term two in which? May 2020. I hope you have received it because most of the students have attended that, and I hope you have received it. You can just check out in the spam folder. I guess it was scheduled 2 months before. I guess I don't remember the exact date. Yes, guys, I don't remember the exact date. If anyone remember, can you just give Shubham an idea about the month? I guess it was 2 months before. Yeah, so you can check it out in Insight Thursdays. Yeah, fine. So now what we'll do, we'll just have a quick recap of what we did in the previous session, how we created the model, which model we selected as the best model and everything. Then we will look at the Python script that we have created. Yeah. So let me just share the screen. Yeah, is the screen visible, guys? Okay. So today what we have done is we have created a churn folder here. Okay. So this is the churn folder inside which we have accumulated all the required files. Here we are having uh, randomforest.pkl. What is this file, by the way? I hope you guys know randomforest.pkl. What is this file, guys? Not the clean one. It's the model. It's the pickle model that we saved. Yeah. I'll show it to you how we saved it, and it was shown to you in the previous session as well, but still I'll show it to you. This is our notebook that we created. Yes, model building.ipynb, the last notebook that we created in the previous session. Am I correct? Yes or no? You remember that, right? Is there anyone who is not able to recap what I'm saying right now? Yeah. What this is your app.py file, which we will see in the coming minutes. These two files are your templates and static. So what is there in template? We are having two HTML files created. Why I have created two HTML file? Why home? Why result? We'll discuss this in just after a few more minutes. Okay. And in static, there are some images over there. Yeah, there are some images that we have used in the web app, so we'll have a look at it. So what I have done, I have accumulated all these files in one single folder. Why I have done it, we'll talk about that as well. Yeah. So now in the very first, we'll have a look at the model building.ipynb file, this file. Okay, so we'll open this file in Jupyter, and I have already done that. So this is your model building.ipynb file. Yeah. So here what we have done, I will just quickly go through it. Okay, we have already done this, so I won't invest much more time here. So I have imported my libraries, right? Imported the data set, had a look at the info, separated the dependent and independent variables, splitted the data set into train and test. Model building, we built logistic regression. Just give me a second, my mouse is not working. We built the logistic regression, the decision tree, then we created random forest, and we got the highest accuracy in the random forest. Clear till here, guys? Any doubt? Is there anyone who is having any doubt till here? By the way, which data set am I using here? It is named as clean underscore churn. Why? Because in the session before this, I guess 2 weeks before, we did a session in which we cleaned the data set, right? We cleaned the data set, and after that we saved it into a CSV file. That particular data set we are using here, right? We are not using the original data set that we abstracted from the database. I hope you guys remember about the database session, right? Yeah. So there was a data set that we imported, and then we cleaned it. After that we created the model building part. So just give me a second, guys. Actually my mouse is, I guess the battery is low. I'll just quickly plug it up. Yeah, just give me a second. Hello, hello. Is the voice audible? Yeah. Sorry for the inconvenience, guys. the just mount my wireless mouse just got sucked up, so I had to plug it up. Yeah. So, anyways, we I separated the independent and dependent variable here. Then I split it into train and test. Then we created the three models, right? After that, we saw some feature importances. We then what we did some hyperparameter tuning, and we got the best score as 84% over here. Yeah. Then what we did, we saved the model as pickle file. Yeah, import pickle, and we dumped the model as random forest.pkl. Yeah, clear till here, guys? So this is the random forest.pkl file that we got from model building.ipynb. Yeah. Now, till model building is done, we have saved the model. Now, what's the objective? Now we need to create a front end. Yeah, the model is done. Sorry. If we are giving an input to the model, definitely we are getting the output as we did predict function, and we got the results as well. So if we are giving an input, we are definitely going to get an output. So now our task is to create a front end. By the way, why do we need to create a front end? Why do we need to create a front end? GUI, exactly. So for so that it's going to be the user experience should improve, right? If I'm giving a Python script to a random user, he might not be able to give the input as we are doing, because we are developers out here. We know how to give it, right? But a normal user might not know how to give it. So we need to create a graphical user interface so that he can easily give the input and get the output. That is the main motive behind creating a web app. Yeah. So, so here now we are done with model building.ipynb. We are done with randomforest.pkl. Now we'll open the app.py file. Yeah, exactly. We don't need to show the code to everyone. Obviously, we need to keep it private, right? So for that, what I'll do, I'll open my spider. Since this is a .py file, so it's better to go for a spider or PyCharm. Yeah. Now here, let me open the three files. Open result.html as well. Yeah. Now here I am having three files, right? If you can see, I am having three files here. One is your app.py, one is your home.html, one is your result.html. Okay, let me zoom it then. Is it visible now? Perfect. Yeah. So as I said, we have three files here. Now what Flask is gonna do, basically the front end, the design, the web application design needs to be created either in HTML, either in CSS, JavaScript, whichever thing you want to do, right? And the backend, the model is already created. Am I right? The model is created. The front end needs to be created using HTML, CSS, or anything that you want to use, right? On the front end, basically the design is something which a machine learning engineer or a data science is not required to be concerned about, right? For that, we used to have web developers and web designers. They will be taking care of that. But for this particular thing, we have designed a very simple kind of interface that you can see whenever I will be deploying it up. Mayank, did you import pickle file? That just give me a second, Mayank. I am reaching there. So what I'm saying, we have our HTML front end created, we have our machine learning model created. But to connect the machine learning model to the front end, there is a microservice that is known as Flask. What is Flask? Flask is nothing but a web app connector, or you can say microservice web framework, which connects the backend to the front end. Are you able to? Yeah, API. The very naive thing that can be said is a API. Are you able to understand what I'm saying? Your front end, your web design is created in your HTML, right? Let me just annotate it. So this is your front end, this is your design that is created, yeah. That's created in your HTML, or you can use any other language that you guys want to use, right? But as I said, this front end design is something which we machine learning engineers or data scientists do not need to take care of. For that, we will be having web developers and web designers, right? They will be taking care of that. But for this, we have just created a simple front end. Now we are having your backend, your model saved, right? But are these two connected? We need to connect these two, right? The user will give input here, it will go to the model will process it up, it will predict it, and it should come directly to the interface. This is the cycle that we need to take care of, right? The user will give the input here, the input should go to the model will predict it and will return it to the interface. That is what needs to be done. Am I right or not? For that, we have that API known as Flask, which will do this particular thing. It will connect your front end to the back end, your model, and it will predict it out and give it back to the interface. Clear, guys? Clear with the basic concept of back end, front end, and how Flask is gonna work? Great. So now we will see to how should we go ahead with the HTML part. Yeah. For that, what I have did, I have given an image that is your static logo.png. Yeah. Then what I have did, there are some images over here. Okay, so I'll show it to you. Why I have put static over here? Because it's present in the static folder, right? So here I am having these 4 5 images and GIS folder is already there by default. I'll show it to you here. See, it's there. If you can see here, I'll just annotate it. Just give me a second. This particular thing, yeah, the path is given to it already. Okay, Nirmal. So that is why folder name, the basic folder name is not required to be given. But yeah, so just let me turn off. Yeah. Now, as I said, this is going to be your logo. So we have given this logo over there in the interface in the center here. Okay. Then here we have given a customer churn.jpg kind of image. This is going to be this image. Yeah. And then what we have done, we have given some color kind of thing. As I said, you don't need to break your head in the HTML part. Okay. I'm just, this particular thing is important for us. Other than that, okay, should I zoom it again? Yeah, is it visible now, Prashant? Okay, fine. So here, as I said, you don't need to take care of these things. Yeah, these particular thing is gonna be taken care by the web designer. What we'll have to do is we'll have to just take care of these input. Okay. Now, if you guys remember in the data set, we were having these as the input, right? Tenure, phone service, contract, paperless billing, payment method, and monthly charges. And churn is going to be our output. Am I right or not? Uh, yeah, we'll deploy it, Rashesh. Just have a clear idea about how it's working in the backend. We'll deploy it. Don't worry. Yes. So these particular inputs needs to be given here. So for here, I have given tenure of the customer. Input type should be text. Name equals to A, and I have given a placeholder as enter a value. Same goes for phone service, contract, paperless billing, and I have given these names as A, B, C, D, E, and F. at last, once I have given these inputs, I need to have a button, right, to submit these values, right? In Google Form, once you give those input, there is a submit button over there, right or not? Yes. So that submit button needs to be here as well. You need to tell the machine that, yeah, these are the values. I am sending these values to the model. Getting my point? Yes. So for that, I am creating a button type here where the type is going to be submit, class is going to be your button class, and its name is going to be predict. So it will display it as predict button. Okay. This is going to be your front end that's created. Now, once I press on predict, yeah, input on is going to be getting it from user. That's why it's written. See, enter a value, enter a value, enter a value. Getting my point, Sivaranjini? So once I click on predict button, I showed the I just showed you the workflow of how it's gonna work. After I press the predict button, what should be done? It should go to the Flask web app or the Flask framework, right? It can't directly go to the model. It should go through the Flask, right? Right or not? Are you able to understand? Is there any doubt here? Just leave the code, the coding part. Yeah, like a bridge. Post, exactly. So once I am click, what is placeholder? Placeholder is nothing. You just need, if you will get to know, Chetan, once I deploy it, I'll show you the web app. You will get to know what placeholder is doing. Okay, this is one set of value. Then how can we predict here? Priya, I didn't get your question, what you are saying. This is one set of value, then how can we predict here? I didn't get it, Priya. Okay, fine. If anyone is getting the question of understanding the question, you can answer it, right? Yeah, exactly. It's like a text box to input. Great, great. You have exactly. We have our model ready, right? We have created a pickle file of that. So all these are HTML page on. Yeah, exactly, Obilesh. It's a HTML page. That's it. So once I'm clicking on the predict button, it should connect to my web app, my Flask, right? So we'll see how Flask is working now. So here, this is going to be the app.py file. Yeah. For that, what I have done, I have imported Flask, render template, and request. Okay, I'm zooming in. Just give me a second. Is it visible? Is it visible? Yeah. Okay. So here, what I have done, I have imported my Flask, render template, and request. If Flask is not installed, I'll show it to you. Obviously, we'll be creating a virtual environment, so we'll see. Yeah. Now to turn on your Flask app, you need to give this command, that is app equals to Flask of name. Okay. So this is basically going to turn on your Flask app. Now here I am doing model equals to pickle dot load. Then there is command open. Why open? To open the model. So here I am giving the path of that particular model, random forest.pkl. It's stored in my this path, so I am specifying this path explicitly. And here I am doing RB, basically read binary. RB stands for read binary. When I was creating the model, what I used to write? I used to write WB, correct? Here I am doing RB because I am reading the model. Are you able to understand till here, guys? Okay. So here we are having app.route. So what? Reading the values of the model, right, Chetan? In random forest.pkl, as I said in the earlier session, basically you are saving some values inside that, right? So basically that particular values are being written reading here. Yeah. Exactly, that's what it's doing, Samta. So here what app.route does is app.route is basically it routes the web app where it needs to go. So once it hits this particular thing, so how this is coming, you'll get to know once I deploy it. You'll be getting a link like this, okay? 126 point something something 00 point something, and in the end you'll get a slash. Okay, I hope you know how a link works, right? If you are putting google.co.in, yeah, localhost, yeah. So it used to have a slash in the end, yeah. So it reaches the slash, so once you open that link, when it reaches the slash, it will come here. It will come here. Okay, so that's why we are putting it as slash. So here I'm putting a function, I'm defining a function man, and I'm putting return render template home.html. So basically this command is going to render my template. Which template? My home.html that I have created. Understanding my point, how this particular man function is working? Yes. Yeah, you can name it anything, right? It's a function name. You don't, it can be man, it can be main, it can be anything, yeah. So why this particular, actually it's main, yeah, you can put it as main. I guess the researcher who created this, he might have just did a spelling mistake, but yeah, anyways, it can be anything, yeah. Obulate, whenever you are using .py file, either you should use PyCharm or Spider. This is a Spider tool that is already present in your Anaconda. Okay, so I'll just show it to you that as well. Once you open your Anaconda prompt, Anaconda Navigator, you will have Spider, Jupyter Notebook, everything. Jupyter Labs, I guess it won't work, okay, because for .py it only works for .ipynb files. Yeah, this is a .ip, this is a .py file. The Anaconda is opening, just a second. Yeah, VS Code will also work. Yeah. Jigna is saying in the line number 27. It's no, Jigna, this particular main function is having no connection with this, huh? You are putting this main to initiate your web app. That is why you need to put main over here. This is having no connection with the function name. Okay. Yeah, I'm just clearing it up. Just give me a second. So Sachin is saying location of home and result. Yeah, see, that's why I accumulated it in the single folder, right? So these file needs to be in the same folder. Once you deploy it now, you'll get to know why we need to put it in the same folder. Yeah, getting my point, Sachin? So this is your Anaconda prompt. Yeah, so you are having spider over here. Let me just start the annotations here. This is your spider. Okay, for .py files, either use spider or you can use your PyCharm as well. Don't go for Jupyter Notebook. Jupyter Notebook is preferably used for .ipynb file. Okay, getting my point? Okay, I'll close it. Let's open it. Yeah, so this is your main folder. So once it goes to this particular part in your link, it calls the main function, and what main function it returning? It's returning you the home.html. So As you press on, as you go through that link, your home.html is gonna be open. Now you will enter these values over there. Yeah, once you are done with the values, once you are done with entering those values, you will press the predict button. Correct? Yes. Yeah. So once you click on predict button, your app.route is going to route you to slash predict, and method is going to be post. This is not a spelling mistake, but if you guys are having any issues, let me put it as main function here. Okay. Is app.py already created by framework? No, you need to code this up, right, Girish? These are all coded by us. You need to code this up. Post is basically after you are pressing the predict button, right? That's why it's post, not before pressing the predict button. After you are pressing the predict button, it will route you till here to the home function. Getting my point, Ankan? Yeah, trigger. Yeah, in this particular case, it obviously it needs to be post, right? So anyways, once it goes to the predict button, it will call the home function. Here it will collect all those values. Tenure equals to request dot form a. Why am I putting a here? If you see in the HTML file, I have named this tenure as a. Correct? So here it's a. Same goes for PS, it's b. What is PS? PS is your phone service, right? Contract is C. PB equals to D. So these are the collected values that we created, and then I am converting it into an array using NumPy. np.array of tenure, ps, c, pb, pm, mc. Then I am doing what? I am doing my model.predict. We have done this before, right? Yeah, you can give proper names as well. You can give proper names. As of now, we have used ABCD, but you can do it more, no problem. If you want to clean and pre-process the data, should that happen in the home function after getting the inputs? And yeah, if you want to do that pre-processing part, that needs to be done in the home function. The pre-processing needs to be done after you collect. See, after you collected the data, you will do the pre-processing if required. Most of the time, it won't be required. Then you are going to convert it into the array and put it in the prediction. Getting my point, Samta? Yeah. So model.predict, what is it's gonna do? It's going to give you the prediction that we have done, right? What is model here? Model is the pickle file that we have saved. After that, I have returned render template result.html. So result.html is a different design that we have created. Okay. So in result.html, what we are going to do is I have changed the color a bit. I have given prediction as the title. Now here we'll be having two values as output. Am I right or not? It's a binary classification case, right? Either the customer is gonna churn on either, or otherwise he is not going to churn. Correct? So either the value is going to be 0 or 1. So if the value is going to be 0, it's gonna return customer will not churn. And I have a image, or you can say a GIF for that, which it is going to display. And else it's going to display customer will churn. And for that I have a different GIF saved. Are you able to get the point, guys? Any doubts still here? It's the same flow that I showed you, right? You have your HTML created. So once you click on that particular link, it will reach the HTML page. You'll give the input. You'll click on the predict button here. It will go to your Flask app. Yeah. What Flask app is going to do? It's going to give that input to the model. This is your model. Yeah, it is going to give your input to the model. The model is going to predict it for you. It is going to return to the Flask app. Now what Flask app is going to do, it's going to render the result.html page and display you the result over here. Clear? Any doubt? How data is passed in if function? Okay, let me show you. So here I'm returning render underscore template. Here I have return.html created, and here I have passed data equals to prediction. So after the prediction is done, it's going to save it to you here. So that particular thing is passed over here. Yeah. Where is app.h? App.py is not gonna be called in the HTML page, Girja. See, you are not going to execute home.html or result.html. For deployment, you are gonna execute your Flask app. Okay, so once you execute this Flask app, what it's gonna do is it is going to give you a link. Okay, so once you click on that link, it is going to have your slash mark. Yeah, so once it reaches that slash mark, it's going to route you to the main function. So what main function is returning? It's returning your home.html. Got it? Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Rupesh. Yes, exactly. So this is your Flask app, your home.html, your result.html. Now the main point is how to deploy it. So are you guys ready for that? Great. So for that, what we'll do, we'll have a Anaconda prompt open. Okay, we'll have our Anaconda prompt open over here. Now tell me, how many of you guys know what is virtual environment? No, we are not going to host on the Heroku first of all. We'll do it in the local system today, and in the next session we'll do it in a server. But that's not going to be in Heroku. Heroku is very simple to do. Yeah, you can do it easily. You just need to put it in your GitHub and link it up. It's going to give you. But what happens in Heroku is going to give its name over there in your address. Yeah. So if you are suppose let me tell you, if you are deploying this the project name is churn, so the link will come like churn.herokuapp.com. Yeah, so we will not be using Heroku, you will be using some cloud like GCP or AWS. We haven't decided which we are going to use. Most probably it's going to be GCP, but yeah, we'll deploy it in our GCP server, and then that link is going to be publicly accessible. Yeah, we can put it. Drag and drop is also there. It's an option. You can put it, right, Amita? In Flask, that is the best thing, right? You can modify it according to your needs. So that's a very good thing in Flask. Yeah, there is two separate pages, but you can do it in one as well. Okay, if you want to display the same thing in home.html, you can put it over there as well. Yeah. How predict function will be hit? I didn't get your question, Sunil. The first line that I gave you was Heroku. You can try that out. It's very easy to deploy in Heroku, by the way. Huh? Heroku. Okay, so what my question was, how many of you know about virtual environments? So what is virtual environment is basically, yeah, exactly, Ankesh. It's a isolated environment. So you can have multiple environments in your system. Okay, right now whenever you are doing pip install, suppose you are doing pip install numpy, yeah, once you do pip install numpy, what is gonna happen is going to install it in your base, right? What is your base? The whole system. So suppose let me tell you, if you are using numpy, which is the latest version of numpy right now? Tell me fast, which is the latest version of numpy? Search it in the Google, guys, any one of you, and tell me, is it 3.8? I'm asking about numpy, not python. Is it 3.8, Rashesh? Just have a look at the Google. Okay, 3.9, fine. So numpy version 3.9 is being installed. Now you have done your whole project and everything, and there the project is being getting executed whenever you are using numpy version 3.7, and in your local system it's 3.9 installed. Rupesh is saying 1.2. Anyways, leave that version. I don't need the exact version. Understand the concept first. What I'm saying is, if NumPy version 3.9 is being used in a project, suppose you have created a churn prediction project, yeah, there NumPy version 3.9 was used. Now, suppose this particular project was created in and leave that particular topic, please, guys. Just concentrate over here. What I'm saying right now. Leave that NumPy version topic. What I'm saying is, suppose Rupesh is having NumPy version 3.9 installed in his system. He has created a churn modeling project and have saved it. Now he has given that project to Deepak. Okay, and in Deepak's system, NumPy version 3.7 is installed. Okay, now what should Deepak do? Because anyways it's not gonna work if it's in 3.9, right? There will be some version conflict over there. What will Deepak do here? What is going to Deepak do? He is having 3.9, so he'll install 3.9, right? Done. Now now Deepak has already his project created. Let me give it as car price prediction project created, where he has used NumPy version 3.8. Suppose he has used 3.7. He upgraded it to 3.9. Now what should he do? Because anyways, one version can be there. You can't install two versions in a single system. No, leave the virtual environment concept over right now. Tell me in general what he will do. He will again install uh, pip install NumPy 3.9, right? His old codes will not work. He'll have to again pip install NumPy 3.9. That's what he will be having to do. So for that, basically for different project, there will be different versions of NumPy or Pandas or any other library, you can say, will be there. So to change and upgrade and downgrade each and every versions again and again to run a project, it's better to create separate environments for that. It's better to create separate environments. This environment I'm going to use for my churn, where NumPy 3.9 is required. Here I will use it for my car prediction, where my NumPy 3.7 is required. This environment I'm going to use for my, let me say, what can we take? Let's take it as house price prediction. Yeah, this I'm going to use for house price prediction, where it might require 3.6. Getting my point, how virtual environment is going to ease your work. So if you want to execute a house price prediction project, you just need to activate this environment and deploy it. That's it. If you want to deploy your car price prediction model, activate this particular environment, churn environment, car price environment, and deploy it. Same goes for churn. Clear? Yeah, these are like separate instances, or you can say separate environments created for each and every, and you can have n number of environments created. Yeah, it's available in AWS, Chetan, but here we will be doing it in our local system. Yeah, clear with the very basic concept of virtual environment, how it's working? Any doubt? Great. So here what I'll do, I'll create a virtual environment. For that, you'll have to install it first using, is the screen visible or should I zoom it up? Is it visible now? Okay, so I'll do pip install virtual environment. Okay, it will install. In my system, it's already installed. Yeah. Now what I'll do, I'll create a virtual environment. So I'll name it as virtual environment, and I'll name that particular, since I'm going to create it for my churn model, so I'll name it as churn. So this is my virtual environment created. What Lokesh is saying, we are creating virtual environments from base environment. In that case, too much of environment cannot make stuck the tool. Yeah, too much of the, basically that depends on your system, right, Lokesh? So if you are creating too many environments with too many libraries installed in it, anyways, it's going to suck. Yeah. Now, first of all, tell me, is this particular directory correct? In my case, the directory should be this, right? C drive users Lenovo, then downloads, right? So for that, what is going to be my command here? I'll have to do cd downloads, correct? Now it's in my downloads folder. Here I'll have to see my directory, and I have having lots and lots of files. From there, I'll have to select this particular file, churn. I'll have to again do cd churn, correct? Cd churn done. But here, as far as I can see, we are having two churns. So there is a subfolder inside it. So I'll have to do again what? Again cd churn. Now if I do directory, I'll get these files: app.py, modelbuilding.ipynb, randomforest.pkl, static templates, right? So is this directory correct now? Now here I'll have to activate my virtual environment. For that, there is a command, that is your environment name, then scripts, then activate. The path cannot find. What was my environment name? It was cd downloads churn. No, it's small c. It should be this one. Churn scripts and activate. Yeah, yeah, I'm in the correct path. Okay, the path specified. Why is it saying this? If I'm putting directory, yeah, it's inside Lenovo downloads and churn, right? Here, see, downloads churn. So the path is correct. And anyways, I'm getting these directories over here, right? So let me check the command again. Is there any issue with the command? Virtual. Okay, okay, I guess I need to create the environment here first. Yeah, now let me activate it. Yeah, done. So I am in my churn environment. Yeah. Are you able to understand how I did this one, or is there any doubt? Why the error was there? Are you able to understand? Got it, right? Why? Because the environment was created outside that particular path. Yeah, virtual environment was created, but it was out. It was here. Where was it? Yeah, well, in that particular folder in which you want that environment to work, right? So we did it in the where is that command, guys? This is download, cd downloads. Yeah, so I did that over here in this particular path. It was created, right? Users Lenovo. I had to create it in inside my churn folder where my app.py file is. Yeah, so right now I am not in my base environment, I am in my virtual environment, that is my churn. Clear? Clear? It's already activated, Rupesh. Now what I need to do, I need to run my app.py python. For that there is a command python and your app.py file, that is your app.py. Once you press enter, here I am getting an error that is saying no module name Flask. Why am I getting this error, guys? Why am I getting this error? I need to install the libraries in my virtual environment because this environment is a new environment right now. There are no libraries installed. Getting my point? This is not the environment, the original environment where all the libraries were installed. It's not the base environment, it's a new environment. For that, I'll have to install my Flask. But here my Flask is not version dependent, so I'll just mention pip install Flask. Not only Flask, we'll have to do it for every library, right? So once Flask is done, which library needs to be we need to work on? We need to work on Pickle. We'll have to install Pickle. We'll have to install NumPy. Yeah. So is it done? Yeah, it's done. Now I will install pip install Pickle. Could not find a version that satisfies the requirement Pickle. Okay. Well, let me install NumPy. Packages NumPy. Also, I guess we'll have to install this one, no? We'll have to install sklearn as well because in the backend it's gonna require pip install sklearn. So sklearn is getting installed. Yeah, all modules needs to be installed once. This is the first time that I am working on this environment, right, Abhilesh? So I have to install it. Next time whenever you are doing it, just activate that environment and run your app.py. Yeah, churn slash script slash activate is to activate your virtual environment. Churn is your environment name, Shubham. In terminal is anyways going to be same. I'm not sure about Mac OS, Amitabh. Yeah, just to import it. Yeah, once you are done with this one now, you can create a requirements.txt file. So in that particular thing, all your versions will be all your package with their will be there. So there is a command to install that requirement.txt file in your system, and all the packages mentioned in your requirement.txt will get installed. Getting my point? Let me just run the app.py now, Python app.py. So it's getting executed. Let's hope it gets executed without installation of pickle. It's still getting executed. I guess the pickle issue is resolved, because otherwise we would have got the error, right? Go on, go on. Great, it's working. This is the link that we got. Are you able to see? This is the link that we got. Now let's copy it up and paste it over here. It's loading. If you want to debug the code, Nirmal, that's why debugger code is there. Why is it coming? Because here I have put debug equals to true. So we have given the provision to debug it if any bugs are over there. Yeah. So this is still loading. So once we load it, deploy it in the server, it's going to be way more faster than this. Ankan, as we saw, I guess the pickle file is not required to be installed over here. So that's why, because let's see if the this particular thing works or not, because it's taking too much of time. Files are same for deployments except file names. I didn't get your question, Rupesh. Which file names? Sorry. That command is there, right, Manisha? That is your environment name slash scripts slash activate. This is your command to activate your environment. But before that, you'll have to create a virtual environment. Okay, that slash is not there. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. It shouldn't have taken that much amount of time. Let me do it here. Copy this. Yeah. See, your web app is created. As I said, we have the inside logo over here, this image over here. Now, if I put some values, let me put it as 10. Phone service should be 1 or 0. Contract 0. 0. Payment method 2. Monthly charges 25. And if I click on predict button, he's saying customer will not churn. And I have given a GIF just to make it a bit funnier. Getting my point, guys? How to create a web app now? Yeah. A debug is something which you don't need to take care of, Ratika. We haven't done debugging yet, right? So you don't need to take care of that. So this is how and you can see all those logs over there, huh? In the command, this particular. I see. Here we are showing app where user can input each detail, but if I have a database for say 100 response and need to see the prediction for the same, we have any plan to show where we can upload data and prediction come as a result. For that, Jigna, you just need to do it in the same way we used to do it, like in a just put your test data set over there. In backend, you can do it like that. Are you asking about that? Jigna, put the query in the all panelists and attendees. There might be some option, yeah, Jigna. You can try that out. As of now, I haven't explored that part where you can upload it in front end and get the predictions. Because if you look at from a user perspective, and then as an individual user, I don't think so. He will require a front end to upload a database and work on it. He can just directly work on it on its backend, right? If he's a user over there. Yes. Manisha is saying this is for single instance. If you want to check for multiple rows, I didn't get it, Manisha. What multiple rows you are saying? We are creating this web app for the user to test it up, right? If you want to see uh, if that particular customer is gonna churn or not. We are not testing the model here. Are you able to understand, Manisha? You need multiple number of rows whenever you are testing your model. It's not testing. You are just creating a web app and just interacting it with. That's it. Joblip is there, HDF5 is there, but these are some of the advanced extension of these particular things, right? So if you are using Dask or something to scale it up, scale your model, then Joblib is something that is going to be preferable. There is something known as Vask. I don't remember the exact name, not Vask actually. There was a tool named by V where you can use HDF5 to scale your model. Yeah. So these type of things needs to be worked depending on the use case that you are working. Yeah. Yeah, that is what I am saying, Shubham. So if you are gonna insert multiple rows over there, so basically you are gonna test the model. Am I right? If you are looking for from a user perspective, if you are a user, why will you put multiple number of rows in a single time? You will either you will have to give multiple options over there, because in the predict model that we have created here, it's gonna take one input at a time. What does predict do? Whenever you are doing dot predict of X test, basically it's taking again and again, right? So same thing was gonna happen here as well. Either you'll have to give it in the front end an option to insert multiple number of rows and then convert it into an array and put it in the predict function, or otherwise you can do it in the backend as well. Yeah. Rashesh is saying, why should we keep 20% for testing data? You can put 30%, 40%, anything, right? Basically, by it's a general way to keep 20% as the testing data and 80% as the training data. But it's up to you, Rashesh. You can define it over there in train test data. Yeah. Yeah, sure, sure, Ankesh. The session is anyways over. You can carry out. Yeah. Okay, okay, okay. Now I got your point, Jigna. If you are asking from an HR point of view, then we can think about it. Yeah. So let's see if we can do that, because I haven't researched on this particular part. So let's see if we can. I guess it might be possible over there in Flask as well, but let's see. Yeah. Because what I'm thinking from a user point of view. If a normal user wants to see, then obviously he will be entering it once at a time. Yeah. By the way, you guys are spelling my name wrong. Anyways, fine. We are done for the day. I hope the session was quite interesting. I hope in next what we're gonna do is we're going to put it in the we are going to put it in a server. Yeah, we'll deploy it in the server, because if I'm going to give you this particular link, it's not going to work on your system, right? So we'll do it in the server. Let's see how to deploy it in the server. For that, there is a tool known as Waitress G-Unicorn to scale it up a bit. So yeah, we'll have a look at it in the next session. So for today, you guys can drop off. We are done for the day. So if you guys have any queries, you can put it up in the support and we'll help you out. I'll upload those files, Suraj. Don't worry. I'll upload these files in a, zipped into a single file and upload it up. Yeah. Thank you, Ankita. Jigna, I got your question. We'll look into it. Yeah, and then I'll make sure that we can put it in the next sessions. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you. You guys can drop off. We are done for the day.